Do you want to know who actually built the soul of Portland? I'm talking about the 7 most influential Portlanders in our history, where they lived, and how it's still affecting the real estate market today. First up, we have Henry Pittick. Now, he owned the Oregonian, but what he's most famous for is obviously the Pittick Mansion. By building on that specific ridge back in 1914, he essentially crowned the West Hills to be Portland's luxury real estate market. He proved that in Portland, a panoramic view of Mount Hood is surely the best hedge against inflation. Next up is Simon Benson, and for those of you who are familiar with Portland's Benson Bubblers, this is the man who coined them. He was a lumber king that understood that using high-end materials creates permanent value. His 1891 Queen Anne home is a masterclass in what I like to call character equity. The fact that this house was literally moved across the town of Portland to be saved shows you just how much Portlanders value that historic architecture. Then we have William Ladd. He was a pretty prominent banker who realized that the standard city grid just was super boring. So with that said, he designed Ladd's Addition with those famous rose gardens to really just promote the community within that neighborhood. In 2026, those diagonal streets can be an absolute nightmare for GPS, but in reality, they created a gold mine for property value because the whole neighborhood essentially just feels like a giant private park. Captain John Couch is really the reason Northwest Portland feels like Europe, and it's Couch, not couch, for those of you who are curious about that. So Couch platted his land with pretty narrow streets that were all alphabetical because he really wanted to create a super dense and walkable market center super close to the docks. And the Alphabet District today, or back then known as Couch's Addition, is a premier rental and condo market because of the way it was built back in the 1800s. Aubrey Watzek was a lumber giant, but he really changed the game when he commissioned the Watzek House back in 1937. Watzek really moved us away from those stuffy Victorian homes of the early 1900s and more so into the Northwest regionalism. So when you're thinking kind of the classic mid-century modern homes with those floor-to-ceiling glasses, those exposed cedar beams and everything like that, you really have Watzek to thank for that kind of general Portland look. Of course, Rummer came in, he really made it his own. That's pretty much the biggest name within mid-century modern within the area. So I'm really just scratching the surface here. I know I said I was going to do 7, but I've only done 5. I'm going to save those 2 more if you guys really want them, including a woman who saved downtown pretty much and the architect who turned Portland into a modernistic icon. I like to track these founders' blocks because it's my way of helping my clients find the most resilient investments within the city. Definitely get in the comments below. Let me know who you think those other 2 influential people are. And drop me a follow if you really want to be a master of the secret history of Portland's real estate. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed this one. Let me know what you thought.